Do you struggle with friendships and feel embarrassed that you're back being in the 6th grade and feeling like insecure about what so-and-so said about and then not knowing how to respond? And you cringe that this is still your story? If any of this is relatable, you are in the right place. My name is Dara Thomason, and this is the Quilters Coach podcast, where I help quilters and women that resonate with what I'm saying understand that it's not that you're broken, it's just that you haven't figured some things out yet. So this episode is going to be so helpful when it comes to having friendships as an adult and then knowing what to do about it. My name is Dara Thomason. This is the Quilters Coach podcast, episode 203, Friendships, and how to truly have the kind of friendships that make you feel like life is doing great. Now, before I go into the bulk of the podcast episode, I want to share a huge win in the membership. We have 3 coaching calls a week, and at the beginning of every coaching call, we have 3 wins. This one came from a member who heard that there is a huge sex trafficking problem in Iowa. It's like the 3rd highest state with these sex trafficking problems. When she heard about it, she knew that she needed to do something. She was really worried that no one would come and that she'd put all this effort into it, and she was able to find a venue and put the word out. She actually had over 300 people that came. This is such a huge win, is that one of the things that I see, and she actually giggled because she's, I'm old and gray. And a lot of ladies will think, I'm just an old lady. I'm just a little old gray-haired lady. What a disservice. What a disservice that if we discount ourselves, that we don't actually step into our power. And for those of you who attended my menopause masterclass, you heard the power that comes from menopause and how incredible that transformation can really be. Imagine the impact that one decision to host that event is going to have, because now over 300 people are aware. Who knows what they'll do? What an incredible impact. This podcast episode is interesting because I have coached a lot of women on friendships. And you might be wondering, okay, how does friendship and weight loss have anything to do with each other? Well, how does a curling iron and weight loss have together? How does a pen and weight loss have together? Weight loss is not about counting calories and tracking steps and knowing everything about nutrition. Weight loss is about learning how to feel your feelings, how to cope through all the difficulties that you're having, and truly living the life that you want by learning how to work through all of those challenges. So when you think about a curling iron and weight loss, I'm going to spend some time curling my hair so I can feel good about myself when I look at myself. I can use this pen to write down my feelings and slow things down. I can use some lipstick to make myself feel a little bit better and think about myself a little nicer. So when I turn to the food, I'm not doing that. Learning strategies and understanding what's going on with friendship is going to help you so much, because you're going to learn what's really going on. I'm just going to give some examples. First, I'm going to ask some questions because I want to see where you're at with your friendships. So first of all, I want you to think about how many... I didn't make a worksheet for this one, but you can listen to it again. You can ask yourself these questions. So what is your history with friendships? Were you really popular in school? Were you part of the in crowd? Did you have a lot of friendships? Did you seclude yourself? Did you have a lot of conflict with other people? Were you closed off? Did you limit how much you spent with other people? Were you aloof? Like you just did your own thing? Did you have a lot of fear around friendships? Were you easygoing? Were you overall popular, but you didn't really have a lot of close friendships? I'm just curious. If you were to do a friendship inventory, what would that look like? Were you constantly monitoring yourself and thinking about what you're going to say? Would your friend think that, how am I going to say this? In your friendships, did they actually know you, or did they know a version of you? I just want you to sit with some of those questions. Now, just like we're being scientists here, we're looking at that situation. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is I want you to answer why. So why were you, what's the story you tell yourself that knew you needed to be connected with the right people? And if you weren't, that could cause a lot of problems. So did you change yourself to be a friend to those people? Or did you just detach yourself and make stories up and feel bad about yourself? If you need to pause, I would recommend you do that and write down some ideas that come. The next question I have is, do you have some trauma around friendships? There's small t trauma and big T trauma. A small t trauma would be a situation when you can remember someone said something to you or something happened. You remember where you were. You might remember what you were wearing. You remember them talking to you or a situation. I remember my daughter being at home, and this is when, what's that called? Oh, Snapchat. So Snapchat is when people take pictures, you see where they are. And there was a bunch of girls Snapchatting. They were all over at another girl's house. My daughter wasn't invited. I still remember where I was. I still remember that situation. That could be a small T. It was one of those moments where I was kind of like holding my breath to be like, okay, how is she going to react to this? How is that going to affect her for the rest of her life even? Okay. I remember a friend in high school looking at me and she's, you have really squinty eyes. Like you have Asian eyes. And I was kind of like, okay. I still remember where I was standing. I still remember what locker I was in front of. I remember all of that because I was so startled by it. So do you have times where you remember a friend or your mom or an adult or someone saying to you something about you and your relationship with friendship? Okay. So if you do, I want you just to jot it down or just say it out loud. The more that you can interact with this podcast, the more transformation. All right. So then the other thing that's interesting about trauma is that when we have those situations and we don't resolve them, work through them, we actually become stunted in our growth. I really like the way Brianna Weist from the Mountain Is You talks about that. For example, let's just take the example of that girl that said about my eyes. So if I didn't work through it, if anyone made a comment, and actually when I was on a plane to San Francisco in January or February, an Asian girl sat beside me and she said, "Are you part Asian?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And she said, "Oh, because it looks like you are because of your eyes." And I was like, "Yeah, I get that sometimes." I didn't react like I would have as a teenager because I've worked through all of that. But if that's a trauma that I haven't worked through, I could be back being like a 15-year-old. I could have been catty. I could have been rebellious. I could have been like rude or so. Sometimes we get surprised by ourselves when we respond in certain ways because we're like, where did that come from? And quite often it's because we have an unresolved trauma. This can happen with our parents. So if we had a lot of difficulty and challenges with them, we can actually quite often be like a 12-year-old, respond to them that way. Or we could respond to them as like a 5 or 6-year-old who's more fearful and scared and don't really use our words and express what's really going on. The reason I bring this up is that when we have these traumas, we can go into self-sabotage mode. We can have emotional distress, difficulty forming healthy relationships, and feel stuck in negative cycles. One of my clients today actually was talking about how when she was really thin, and she has a really friendly personality. She's really outgoing. And her husband's kind of a jealous guy. Even the other day, she went to work and she wore some perfume. She put some makeup on. She was wearing sweats and a t-shirt and a flannel shirt, but she put her makeup on and did her hair and put some perfume. And her husband was really jealous. They've been married for 32 years. So she had this like epiphany today of one of the reasons she sabotages herself with weight loss is because she's worried if she loses too much weight, she's going to get too much attention from other people. And then she's going to have those common fights with her husband that she doesn't like and doesn't feel like, yeah. So interesting. Interesting. All right. Now I'm going to share another story. So I have a client who there was a friendship drama. There was the three of them, the one she's a little bit closer to than the other one. And then sometimes they all go on trips together. But the third one, when they go on trips with the third one, it just changed the dynamic. And there was a lot of neediness. And when you put yourself down because you want other people to lift you up, there's a lot of that. And as she was working with me, she realized, I actually don't really like that person. I actually am just being friends with her because I feel obligated. And she realized, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to spend my energy. I don't want to spend like effort with that anymore. It's just not how I want it to be. And so we worked out what would be the benefit of staying friends with this person, what would be the benefits of not being friends with this person, what would be the repercussions of staying friends with this person, what would be the repercussions of not being friends with this person. And we're able to work through all of it, right? When emotions are high, intelligence is low. So we're able to work through, oh, this is what's going on. And she was able to see everything and weigh it all out. She realized, I actually don't want to be friends with this person anymore. Our relationship is complete. I've gotten everything out of it. I've learned so much. This is just not for me anymore. It's kind of like an old pair of shoes when you outgrew them, or certain fabric. You're like, I used to love this kind of fabric and now I don't. And it's not that fabric's bad. It's just that it's not your preference anymore. And she, with the help of ChatGPT, wrote a letter to this friend and just said, I think we're complete. It was fascinating. One of the things that I loved the most was she realized how different she is now. She was used to showing up. This is so fun for me to be this version of me. I'm not this scared teenager that if I make a move, I have to be afraid of going to school because the repercussion. I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while because I could actually tell lots of stories about friendship. I really want to encourage you to look at your reaction to friendships. If you're reacting like a scared kid or a rebellious teenager or a fearful, there's some stuff that you need to work through. And whether it's with me or another coach, or maybe there's like actual trauma, like big T trauma, like a lot of bullying, I promise you can work through it. That's why I have so much confidence in the work that I do, because everything is figured out. Sometimes we need to go to a specialized trauma therapist. And that's amazing. It's amazing that we have people out there who have dedicated their lives to helping us work through these difficulties and challenges. I feel such an honor every day to be a coach and to help these women work through these challenges. As I conclude this podcast episode, I want to actually share one of the most important and least looked at aspects of friendship. Can you guess it? Absolutely. In order to be a friend to other people, you actually need to learn how to be a friend to yourself. And every year I do an in-person retreat. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. I look forward to it every year. One of the attendees, one of her big takeaways was, She has been learning how to be with herself instead of by herself. And she is learning how to be her own friend. And there's lots of different things that people can do. I'm going to go on a solo trip and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Sometimes that feels like really overwhelming and it feels like, wow, like, how am I going to do that? What would it be like just to not pick up your phone as much? So in those moments when you're transitioning or you're feeling like not sure what to do next, or if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, instead of picking up your phone and checking on the reels, you do that. Let's check the reels. Let's go to who can do this, right? Check the reels, check Facebook, check the emails, because we don't know how to connect with ourselves. So that's number one, connect with ourselves. Every time we pick up the phone, we're like, the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm not connecting with myself. If we go for a snack, same thing. I'm doing this because I don't know how to connect with myself. And the third one would be like, let's distract ourselves with like baking or shopping or texting someone because we don't want to be with ourselves. So I want you to make an action plan and a commitment to being friend with you and what that would look like. One of the funnest things that I can think about is, have you been to the playground recently with a little kid? It's one of the cutest things ever. So he's now 6'5", but when he was little, he'd go up to, and actually most of my kids were like this. They'd go up to kids in the playground. They say, "Hi, my name is Ben. Want to be my friend? Do you like tag? Let's play." I would be curious to see what would happen if you look in the mirror in the mornings and you're like, "Hi, my name is Dara and I love crafting or I love quilting. Do you want to do something fun today?" Like, what would be the difference if you did that? I'm so glad you're watching this. Either you're watching or you're listening. But I love the work that I do because I get to see true transformation. Incredible. So if you're ready to transform, this is June 12th. And I'm going to plug the summer bucket list. I've already sent it out to the members. We have a bucket list and we create these really fun activities. Some ladies have done things like going to different museums because they love history. One lady bought a kayak that she can carry by herself. She doesn't need her husband to help her so that she can go anytime she wants. She also bought the one that she can take so that she can just bike to kayak. One lady made a goal to make a certain amount of charity quilts as her connection to herself in the summer bucket list. One lady has a goal to do a certain amount of hikes. My summer bucket list was I woke up early and went for walks by myself around this lake that I love. It's really rewarding and fun. If you want to be a part of that, it's what we're doing in our membership in July. We're working on being our own best friend, being with ourselves instead of by ourselves and distracting ourselves. If that's interesting to you, let's do it. Take care. Bye. If you aren't loving your current life and hear yourself saying things like, "I should be happier, I should be getting more done," or question how productive and fulfilled you are, this podcast is for you. I'm Dara Thomason, professional quilter turned life coach for quilters, where I show you how to overcome obstacles like perfectionism, people pleasing, overeating, overcomplicating life, so that you can really start to enjoy your life by learning and using tools for your brain to help you transform your everyday living. Are you ready to make these changes? I'm ready to help. Let's start your transformation one UFO at a time.